Hi guys, I hope everybody's having a good week. I know mine's been going by pretty quickly. We've been pretty busy in Messina. So I'll talk about what we've done so far this week. Um, Let me think here. So Monday is the only day so far this week we've had everybody in the office. The last 2 days we've been working on the master schedule for next year. So what we do at Messina, I know a lot of schools do it differently. But at Messina, our principal actually allows us, it's the counselors that do it. Sometimes the principal pops in. I do think that Bob and the rest of the department wishes that she was in there more and was coming to those more, but um, it is what it is. Bob does most of it anyways, so I don't think it's that big of a situation. Um, but so Monday, everybody was in the office and it was a pretty regular day. We had a lot of CSEs still going on for next year, the annual. Some of them are reviews or reevaluation years, sorry. Um, but yesterday and today have been different because we've had everybody at um, the place that we've been using for the master schedule. So how we do it, getting back to that, is we rent out a conference room either at a hotel or a business. So this year we're doing it actually on the reservation. One of our counselors, Julie White, her husband, owns a business, and we use the conference room in their um, office building for the last 2 days. So that's where we were. So we go there in the morning. I only went today. Yesterday, I needed to be back at the office. And we all go. Usually, we have one person at the office at all times. So either they do half days or somebody covers the whole day back at the office. Their second half, but Daniel ended up staying the whole day just because she had a lot of students in and out. So, that's kind of how our week has looked. But my week personally has been pretty interesting. Um, I got to work yesterday, and as I was walking in, not even to my office yet, one of our freshman teachers stopped us and said, I really need to talk to you. So I was like, all right. Um, and I went to her room with her. She had a freshman student the night before, so Monday night, text or email her around 9:30 saying that he was suicidal and he hadn't ever reached out to anybody about it before besides his friends, but he really trusted Miss Mitiga and wanted to tell her about it. So naturally, not really knowing what to do because teachers don't see that every day. She panicked. It was late. She had texted two of the counselors. Nobody was awake. So she kind of talked to him, stayed up for a while and talked to him, emailed back and forth with him. Um, and first thing in the morning, she let me know about it. And I kind of told her what she can't do in situations like that and what she should do. I think all in all, like not knowing what she was doing and not having that situation happen before, she handled it pretty well. Um, so what happened was he was horrified to tell anybody, and she was worried to break his trust. He had reached out to her, had never talked to anybody about it before, and was trusting her. Um, he's afraid of guidance. He is a pretty popular kid, so he doesn't. I think he thinks going to guidance, people will find out and wonder why he's there, and then it'll be talked about. And he just did not want to come to guidance. So Mrs. Mitiga talked to him, and she said to me, I think he's okay for now. And he does better talking to guys than girls. He's got a stepmom that he's really close, or stepdad, sorry, at home that he's really close with. And I think because of that, he's more comfortable with having male relationships, which is fine. We have a male school psychologist. So if kids are uncomfortable with us sometimes, we also have Bob. If kids are uncomfortable with us sometimes, we have them talk to one of them. Bob wasn't there for the day. So we were going to talk to Kyle. Kyle wasn't there either. So this teacher was like, well, can we wait another day? And I understand where she was coming from because she wants to not break that trust, but at the same time, that's a really serious situation and it can't wait another day. We have to talk to him and go through the process and see where he's at with it, um, and notify the parents. So I ended up talking to this kid. I kept it pretty vague, didn't really say, come out and say it came from this teacher who you had talked to. I just kind of checked. I told him I was checking in with him, seeing how he was doing, and he told me, I'm really not doing well. And I asked him what was going on, and he said in the past he's had some thoughts of suicide. He said back in January he was very suicidal, had a plan. He had some good friends that luckily talked him out of it because he was not willing to tell anybody else. Um, and and now his grandfather, who he's very close to, is sick. They just found out they found a tumor. He's got, I want to say, stage 4 cancer of some sort. So that is really just kind of sending him spiraling. Um, and I could tell he was nervous talking to me, and was not uncomfortable, but it was new to him and he wasn't sure how to handle it. But he was very upfront, told me everything. We talked for a long time. When it came down to it, he said, I haven't felt like I've wanted to hurt myself since January, but it's something that's always in my mind that happened to me and that was there and those thoughts were there, and I want to change that so that doesn't happen again. So we ended up calling his mom, which was also hard because his mom, when I called her, was in the hospital with his grandfather, and the student didn't know the severity of what was going on with Grandpa. So after we talked to Mason for a while, I talked to his mom on my own. She kind of explained the situation and asked me what the next steps were for Mason. Oh, sorry, I said his name and I wasn't supposed to. He was going to go home that night. Mom is very involved. I've talked to her before, not about anything like this, because this was the first time I've heard of this. And she was going to inform him about Grandpa that night. So because of the way the suicidal evaluation came out, and after talking to him, I felt pretty confident that, he didn't have a plan. Um, he didn't have a plan. I don't know, didn't have a time frame, none of the stuff that you have to walk them through and talk and ask them about. And you have to be really upfront with them, like ask the questions that a lot of times people think you aren't supposed to ask, but you really have to come out and ask these questions. Um, and practically what it came down to was, no, I'm not feeling that way right now, but with everything that's going on, I'm worried that those are going to come back up because they have in the past. And um, what am I going to do to deal with that? So how we ended at the end of the day was, mom was coming in to pick him up from school, was taking him home. Stepdad was coming home. They were going to talk about situation with Grandpa and take it from there. The mom had my email and Danielle Brown's email because I did have a game that night in class, so I was very busy. Um, and we told her to let us know if she had any additional questions about what she should be doing at the time. He came into school today and I wasn't there because I had some other stuff going on. Met with Kyle DeTulio and they got him right in with counseling over at Messina Wellness. So we're going to obviously keep an eye on him and make sure we're evaluating him as we can, and mental health is obviously on top of it now too. So that took up a lot of my morning yesterday. From there, I had 2 superintendent's hearings. One ended up being a no-show. The other kids showed up and totally owned up to what he did. Vaping on the bus, the vape pen ended up having THC in it. It was a first-time offense for him. He's never been in any trouble before, really. I mean, small infractions like late to class, skipped detention, stuff like that. So he is suspended until after spring break, and he can come back. He will get tutoring. We have the 3 to 5 program, so he's able to come to that, but he can't be there during school day. The second student did not show up. He was the one that was in possession of the vape pen, and when our dean of students and our assistant principal tried to get it from him on that day that it happened, he ran from school. The police had to pick him up and bring him back to school, where he was then suspended. He had ditched the vape pen somewhere on his run from school. So he didn't have it with him, but it was visible in his pocket, and we had video from the bus with him having it and smoking off of it. Anyways, he didn't show up. We called mom to remind her of it. She said she never got a note in the mail, or maybe this student got to it before she did. And they weren't going to make it. He was on his way to probation anyways, and she informed us that tomorrow, as in today, she was going to try to take him back to rehab, and it was probably going to be court appointed anyways. But that she wasn't informing him about it because she knew if she did, he would run. He does that when he knows he's in trouble, he's about to face some consequences, he will take off and literally run away for not for a while, but for the day to avoid it. So we rescheduled that hearing and asked them to come in today or notify us if he was going to rehab. They didn't notify us, so we went to the hearing. They were a no-show, which means we have the superintendent's hearing in absentia, I think is how you say it, which means we are all there. The secretary has to testify to informing the family what the contact looked like with that, and then we went on with the hearing. This student was in possession of it. It was a drug because it had THC oil in it, and it was not his first offense. He's been in and out of rehab constantly for things similar to this. He has multiple in-school suspensions for vape pens, all that good stuff. Not good stuff, but all that stuff. So he was actually suspended until the end of the school year. After the hearing, I got back to my office for a quick second before I was leaving to go do the master schedule, and got an email saying that he had been admitted to drug rehab. So that is where he is now, and if I get any updates, I'll keep you updated. Last time he was there, they were pretty poor with communication, and mom's not the best either. So I guess we'll see where that goes. So the other part of my day today, I left work around 10:45 and got to the place where they were working on the master schedule around 11:15-ish. And I kind of just watched the process. We had 3 counselors there, so Bob is he's really good at it, so he kind of takes charge. We had Danielle there who counts up the conflicts, and we have and kind of lets him know where everything is and if there's a conflict somewhere. And then we had Julie who was there with the matrix, the master matrix conflict matrix, whatever it is, that goes through every class and all of the conflicts with those classes, which is a big part in it. I think a lot of us in this class right now took intro with Tony Sidden last semester, and we kind of did a master schedule, but it was small scale. Messina is obviously a much larger school than what Tony was coming from, which was Madrid Waddington. So this one was a lot more involved, and obviously we have a lot more teachers and a lot more students to take into consideration. So it was interesting to see how that works. They do it in 3 ways. First, they scheduled what they call their singletons, so courses that are only offered once throughout the day. So things like sociology, psych, some of the IB courses, those things. And then they move on to the doubles, which are courses that are offered twice throughout the day. So I'm trying to think. Some of those IB languages are offered only twice. Some of the math courses are offered twice. French 2 is offered twice, stuff like that. From there, we moved on to the triples. So a lot of those are algebra classes or algebra 1A classes, some of the social classes, some of the arts, and then you move on to the bigger sections. So what we left off today was the sections with, or the classes with 4 sections. So those would be our algebra 1Bs, our studio and art, our couple of our languages, stuff like that. And that was just really interesting to see how that all fit into place. It's not completely done yet, but they got a good portion of it done, and it was good to see how the conflict matrix is helpful to build that schedule and the different things you have to look at and different classes you have to think about when scheduling every single class. So definitely confusing, but hopefully as I spend more time watching it over the course of this year and many more years, it'll start to make more sense. So that's how my week's been so far, and tomorrow we'll do some more master schedule, and if there's anything new, I'll update you next week. So I hope everybody has a good week.